I'm not going to sit here and bore you with a super long intro. If you clicked on this video, chances are you know what a draft grades video is. And if you don't, I'll run it down for you real quick. Pretty self-explanatory. Basically, we're going team by team, talking about the draft. I'm going to assign a letter grade to every single pick and then give an overall grade for the team in question. Going to be talking about all 32 teams over the summer. That's my big twist that I put on it. Not exactly reinventing the wheel, but not a lot of people give each team their own video to shine. Usually it's division by division, conference by conference, and those are totally legitimate ways of going about things and probably take a lot less work and save you a lot of time, but hey, I like to do things a little bit differently. Keep in mind, though, because of that time crunch, this intro is pre-recorded. I'm recording this all the way back in May. Who knows how long these videos will take to come out, so just keep that in mind. You know what team you're watching. You don't need me to tell you in the intro. You clicked on the video, you can read the title, you can see the thumbnail. Two quick things to keep in mind. Number one, I'm not a professional. I don't claim to be a professional. I am very much an amateur, so if I disagree with something your favorite team did, I'm not saying I know better than your favorite general manager, your favorite scout, if you're a freak and have one of those. I'm just saying I didn't agree with the pick. I didn't agree with the process. That's my opinion. Feel free to disagree and let me know in the comments below why you disagree with me or agree with the team, whichever it may be. Regardless, the point is, I'm not trying to say I'm better than anybody here. I just have opinions and I like to share them. Also, I have changed my grading scale up from last year, and that is to say that I actually have a grading scale now, as you can see on the screen. This will keep things more uniform, allow me to stay more consistent, and also provide some transparency between me and you as the viewer. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into whatever team we're talking about today. I usually start these videos off by talking about the team, in kind of a general sense, or like making a statement about their draft as a whole, something like that. But I want to do something a little bit different with the Ravens video this year, and that's start with an apology. Because if you watched my Ravens draft grades video last year, I was wrong about their first two picks. Roger Rosengarten especially, but also Nate Wiggins. And just for clarification, for those who don't remember, with Nate Wiggins, the issue wasn't about him being a bad player. It was about Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean still being on the board. I sat here and I said, well, yeah, he's a good player, but there are better corners on the board. Didn't matter. Nate Wiggins was the perfect pick for Baltimore in the first round in terms of corners, right? He was the best fit, and he performed very, very well this past year. And Roger Rosengarten, even more so, I was sitting here saying if this guy is going to be a good NFL tackle, he is going to have to make up for really poor play strength by being a master tactician at the tackle spot. What did he do during his rookie year? He showed himself to be a master tactician at the tackle spot. Both of those guys had great rookie years. So I just want to jump out here and apologize for that, and also use that to pivot by saying the Ravens are really good at this whole drafting thing. Like, I feel like that's not a secret, and this year is no exception to that point. With one notable little blemish on that, and we'll talk about that, but like as a whole, it was a very, very good draft, and I'm excited to dive into this one. I really am. So let's go ahead and jump right into talking about the positive before we talk about the big negative with Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia, who in my opinion was the perfect first round pick for the Baltimore Ravens. I could not have drawn this up better myself. I could not think of a pick that would be more perfect for this team, because not only is Malachi Starks a very, very good football player in his own right, like the value's good here from my board, had a late first round grade on Starks. He's very versatile. He does a lot of things very well, and we'll talk about that in a second. But more importantly, at least for me, this opens up Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton, in my opinion, is not only the second best player on the Baltimore Ravens behind Lamar Jackson, but is the best safety in all of football. And giving him a running mate in the defensive backfield that is not only super talented, but can take the traditional safety reps away from him, so he can come up and do a little bit more of the playing close to the line of scrimmage, playing linebacker, playing nickel, whatever you need him to do. Let him be that star position defender is tremendous. That is absolutely incredible. Because now Kyle Hamilton can go back to doing literally everything for the Ravens defense And to me, the Ravens are at their best defensively when Kyle Hamilton is doing literally everything. No longer do you have to worry about Marcus Williams or, God forbid, Eddie Jackson starting at safety. You have a real football player back there next to Kyle Hamilton. And not only will he take those like traditional safety reps so Kyle Hamilton doesn't have to, but if you still want to let Kyle Hamilton do a little bit of that, which I'm sure you do because he's great at it, Starks can be the one that can come up and play in the box, play close to the line, play nickel, do whatever, because he's also a super versatile defender. So in other words, you've got like Kyle Hamilton and his mini-me in your defensive backfield, and they can, just cause havoc and make shit happen, and that's awesome. But taking a look at Starks as a player, just kind of running through my notes on him. Good enough frame at 6'1", 197 pounds, only 21 years old, very high IQ player who reads the field well, processes offenses quickly, and can anticipate and break on routes very, very quickly as well. A super high motor player, very physical, really good ball skills, despite taking a little bit of a dip in production in 2024, which was kind of a consistent thing. He just looked better in 2023 than 2024, but he was still a damn good player last year, and I have no doubts that he will be even better in the NFL. He was the best man coverage safety in this class, gives Baltimore that option as well if they want to man him up from time to time. Zone IQ isn't fantastic, but it's good. There's definitely some room for improvement there, but like I said, he's young, he's going to Baltimore, he's going to be around good people that can help him with that. He's a very consistent tackler against the run. He can't stack and shed super consistently, but you're probably not going to be asking him to go up against tight ends or anything like that super often. I'm sure he can get off a receiver or two. Versatile player, like I said. And the biggest thing for me with Malachi Starks is his communication skills. I mean, if he sees something, he doesn't keep that to himself. He lets everybody know about it. He makes sure everybody on the defense is on the same page, make sure everybody knows what's coming, and that gives you a big advantage. Now, we'll see how that translates to the league because things get a little bit more complex, but he's a super smart dude. I have no doubt that he'll be able to, eventually transition into that. Maybe not week 1, but, by like week 14, maybe even sooner than that. I might be selling him a little bit short there, but like by the back half of the season, I'm sure he will be able to do things of that nature or at least contribute to it in some way. So Malachi Starks, absolutely perfect pick for Baltimore. I really cannot think of a truly negative thing to say. Like, genuinely, great player, makes your best defensive player better, makes your defense as a whole better, makes it so you never have to put Eddie fucking Jackson on the field again. Just an absolutely tremendous pick for Baltimore. And then we get into the second round. Mike Green, edge rusher, Marshall. I've tried to record this about 15 times, and every single time I do, I end up getting really mad. I'm trying to avoid that. But it blows my mind that this was a real thing that the Ravens thought was a good idea. Now, I know what people in the comments are going to say. It's a good football player. He helps the Ravens on the field. Sure. If you want to die on that hill, sure. He was super productive at Marshall. Tape looked really good. A lot of the experts sung his praises. He was a consistent first-round mock draft participant, I guess you could say. And a lot of people said he was a top 10 to 20 player on the big board, right? You want to die on the hill that he's a good football player, go ahead. But I do want to ask you a question. If that's your first thought to someone bringing up Mike Green being a bad pick or talking about what we're about to talk about, I want you to think to yourself, why was he available at the 27th pick in the second round if he was such a good player? This draft class, it was pretty, widely known for being really good in terms of depth, but not having a lot of top-end talent. So if Mike Green was such a good talent, why was he available here at 227? Because it has nothing to do with the play. He wasn't undersized. He didn't test poorly. He didn't have poor production. All of those things he checked all those boxes. Why did every single NFL team pass on him at least once? Probably because he has 2 allegations to his name. I would say that's probably a top contender. And all of those teams passing on him tells me that there's probably more we don't know about. Or at least more evidence to those allegations that we don't know about. But for some reason, the Baltimore Ravens, who were in the middle of dealing with the Justin Tucker situation, that was public knowledge at this point, they said, yeah, we'll take him. We want him to represent this organization. We want to plant our flag on Mike Green to show people this is the kind of guy we're willing to take if it means it's going to help us win. And sure, I don't care that he probably will help them on the field because he's a good football player. I care that that's the message you're sending to not only your fans, not just to the league itself, but to your own players, the people within your organization. It's the same conversation we had a couple years ago in Baltimore's backyard with the Cleveland Browns. Not in their literal backyard, but, same division. When you bring a guy like this into your organization, you're sending a message to every woman that follows your team, every woman that works within your organization, and hell, every man that follows your team or works within your organization that, might know a survivor of sexual assault or rape or abuse, or at least has women they care about in their life, that you're okay with that kind of behavior. We're all right with that. Insane. It's disgusting. So I don't care how good of a football player Mike Green is. I really don't. I don't care if he set records in college. One of the worst picks of the draft, easily. Probably the worst overall. Not the worst in terms of talent. We'll talk about that when we get to the Giants. But the worst pick of the draft just in terms of how idiotic it was for Baltimore of all teams to make this mistake. I don't care if Mike Green plays 10 years for them, puts himself in the same sentence as like Terrell Suggs in terms of talent and production. I really don't care. I'll still look at this as a terrible pick because it is the most tone-deaf thing I have ever seen an NFL team do. It's just insane to me, man. I mean, the guy had an allegation in high school, goes to Virginia, signs a no-nonsense clause, violates it by getting another allegation, gets kicked off the team, goes to Marshall, and he gets rewarded with a multi-million-dollar contract and being a second-round pick in the NFL draft. And I don't care about innocent until proven guilty. You can make that point as well. The system's broke. It doesn't support victims, and that's why we need to support victims. So I've made it clear on this channel before. This is a place where we support victims. If you have a problem with that, fine. There's plenty of other NFL content creators out there. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to Mike Green defenders or Mike Green defense. Dislike the video, leave a comment, call me whatever. I don't care. I really don't. Mike Green should not be employed by an NFL football team. And the fact that he was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens in the second round of the NFL draft is absolutely atrocious. And it's made 50 times worse by the fact that they were still employing Justin Tucker at the time and were actively aware of what he was being accused of as well. Two things I want to add here at the end before we move on. Number one, about the no tolerance policy or zero tolerance policy, whatever they call it, that the Ravens apparently have. And then number two, I want to clarify what I meant when I was speaking on innocent until proven guilty. So we'll start with the zero tolerance policy thing. I get that the Ravens apparently have one. I read a bunch of articles, a bunch of tweets, some Reddit threads, watched some videos while I was editing this just to see what Ravens fans were saying. I normally don't do that for these videos, but, given that this is a non-football related subject, I wanted to see what the consensus was. And they keep bringing up this zero tolerance policy. The Ravens have no room for abusers and things of that nature. I'm calling bullshit. And the reason I say that is because of Justin Tucker. This is someone who we knew people in Baltimore knew for years that Justin Tucker was a creep, that there was something going on. And you can look at Twitter, you can look at Reddit, there's people that have been talking about this, I've seen dating all the way back to 2021, where they're saying, Justin Tucker is banned from multiple massage parlors, and he's having problems with his marriage that relate to him doing some weird stuff. If people on Twitter know about that, if random citizens in Baltimore or random people in that area know that Justin Tucker's a creep, you can't convince me that the Baltimore Ravens organization was not also aware. And if they weren't, then you should fire everyone in the building anyways, because they're not paying any attention to their players. I'm not saying you have to be Big Brother and watch their every little move, but you need to be aware of what your players are doing if they're doing sick, twisted shit like Justin Tucker was. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say Baltimore was. I don't think that's hard to believe. And then with Mike Green, with the no tolerance policy, I'm sure they can make a lot of excuses given the fact that he didn't go to trial and the police threw the case out pretty quickly. But that doesn't tell me that Mike Green's innocent. That just tells me that the system failed once again. As I've already said, I have no faith in the system when it comes to this kind of stuff. And that leads me into the second point with innocent until proven guilty. I understand that is like something our country is based upon. And, as an actual concept, yeah, that's a good thing. It is good to be innocent until proven guilty. However, when it comes to sexual assault, rape, all these kind of things, in the big 2025, it doesn't mean the same thing anymore. People don't use innocent until proven guilty to make any actual points. It's an excuse at this point. Like, yeah, technically speaking, Mike Green is innocent until proven guilty. But you saying that 10 times in the comments doesn't tell me that you're trying to uphold the law to its highest degree. It's telling me that you're making excuses for someone that's a piece of shit because you have nothing else to say. That's it. And I understand, too, that there are some athletes who have their careers ruined by this, and it didn't actually happen. You know, there are instances where that's the case, but for every one of those, there's 50 athletes who actually did something disgusting. So, my bad if I'm more worried about the majority here when it comes to these kinds of things. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump back to me in the past, and we'll talk about some players that I actually have nice things to say about. Alright, I'm going to be totally honest here. I took a little break after recording that Mike Green bit because I don't want to carry that negative energy through the rest of these picks. Like, don't get me wrong, Baltimore is on my shit list because of this, but these players deserve to be talked about separate from something they had no control over. So let's go ahead and jump into that, starting out with Emory Jones Jr., the offensive lineman out of LSU. And I say offensive lineman because I've seen a lot of people consider him a guard, and I absolutely see the route for him to be a guard. And even looking at Baltimore's depth chart on ESPN, it seems like they have him listed as a guard. But, you know, there's a world where he plays tackle. That's what he played in college. He's got the frame and the size for it. So, you know, he could play either or. And in my opinion, I think there is a world where, maybe not right away, but say Daniel Falele doesn't pan out the way they want him to, or Andrew Voorhees, who looks like he's finally going to get a shot to start, doesn't pan out the way they want him to, I think Emory Jones Jr. could slot into either of those spots, or he could be a nice swing tackle. I don't think he should necessarily be a left tackle, so maybe swing tackle is the wrong way to put it, just back up to Roger Rosengarten, but either way, he's a very, very fun developmental prospect. Had an early to a mid third round grade on him. You get him here at the end of the third round. 21-year-old player, 6'5", 315 pounds with 34.25-inch arms. Reminds me a lot of Morgan Moses, just one of these big, hulking, powerful run blockers who, you know, Morgan Moses, like I said, played right tackle. Emory Jones Jr., I think if he plays tackle, should do the same. Taking a look at some of my notes on him here. He's a good athlete, at least for his size, we'll say. Relative to his size, he's a good athlete. And he's able to climb up to the second level and absolutely level dudes in the run game. His great play strength across the board, best showcased by his ability to displace defenders in the run game. When he lands his punches, which is not a consistent thing, he's usually pretty early, but when he does land those punches, his grip strength is fantastic, and it's really hard to break off of that. His hands are really heavy, and he uses them to jolt defenders upright at the point of attack. His footwork as a pass protector is fluid and very solid. He's able to mirror pass rushers pretty well. He's flexible. He can get his knees bent and set up his sturdy anchor. He's got a very good anchor. The only thing that gets in the way of that is he does play with high pad level from time to time. Now, when he can bend his knees, it's just a consistency thing. So, you know, need to make that a little bit more consistent for sure. As I've already alluded to, he's a downright nasty run blocker. His leg drive's great. He's good on combo blocks as well. Once he gets up to that second level, he does a good job of finding work, and he's good at, you know, getting off of the first block and getting up to the second level as well. So like I said, with him, it's kind of a consistency thing. It's a matter of the hands being more consistent, you know, actually deploying them when they need to be deployed. It's a matter of keeping the pad level low, and then it's also recovery. He's coming off a torn labrum, which definitely hurt his, his draft. I can't think of the word right now. Definitely hurt his draft stock a little bit. Goodness gracious, I cannot believe that. But yeah, you know, he's a smart dude. Needs to work on identifying stunts and blitzes a little bit, but other than that, he's a smart dude. Has a lot of the traits you want to see in a developmental player. He's young. Spending a third round pick on him, I think that's a very good pick. I'm definitely in favor of that for Baltimore. And then in the fourth round, they went with, in my eyes, another developmental player in Teddy Buchanan, the linebacker out of California, who I'll say right off the bat, this is a B plus because I thought there were some linebackers at this point on the board that could start for Baltimore day one, and I kind of think that's something they need, but that's neither here nor there. I get going the developmental route. It was a weak class, and Teddy Buchanan is definitely one of the more intriguing developmental players for my money. Projects as a true Mike linebacker, so he'd fit right in next to Roquan Smith. Only 22 years old, 6'2", 233 pounds. He's got the frame. He's got the athletic tools you want. He's a very high character player. He has 3 seasons of captain experience at 2 separate programs. So both on and off the field, he is praised for his personality and his character and his leadership as well. Like I said, good frame, good athlete. He can fly downhill against the run or play sideline to sideline. Very high motor player, always plays through the whistle. He's a good tackler. His form is very sound. He's quick to trigger when he sees plays developing. He does not waste any time getting downhill. He's fluid in coverage. He can mirror receivers, in man coverage. And he has really high upside on special teams. Now, like I said, kind of across the board, developmental player, very raw. Play strength is below average, not someone that stacks and sheds super consistently. His instincts aren't necessarily there yet. As a run defender, his diagnostics and gap discipline definitely need some work. His field vision and coverage is underdeveloped, and his zone IQ is underdeveloped. So Buchanan is someone you're bringing in right away to get into your system, acclimate him with some of the other linebackers in the room, get him working with your defensive staff, and in the meantime, he'll probably kill it on special teams. I figure spending 4th round capital on him, he will make the roster. It's not like this is a practice squad guy, but definitely not someone who I think will get a lot of PT on defense early on. I could be wrong. He could develop well quickly, but time will tell. Definitely a pick I'm a fan of. And then you get into the 5th round, and they take another developmental player. That's 3 in a row with Carson Vinson, the offensive tackle out of Alabama A&M. And, addressing the elephant in the room with this one, right away, you're looking at level of competition. Vinson looked really good against some of that lower competition, and that's what you're looking for. So hopefully that won't be too big of an issue, because goodness, as a developmental player, Vinson is exciting. 6'7", 314 pounds, 34.5-inch arms. He's got the frame you want to see. He's got good movement skills for his size. He's not like super quick, but he can get out there. He can block on the move. He can make plays as a motorcycle is driving by. I don't know if that picked up, but he can definitely, get out in space, climb to the 2nd level. He's a good reach blocker. In pass protection, he mirrors really well. His footwork's pretty good. He has great grip strength as a run blocker with a nasty demeanor to boot, and he's pretty good on combo blocks as well. And then on the flip side, like I said, level of competition, we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. His hand placement is a little erratic, which is going to hurt his overall ability to get his hands on and latch on. That is something that will need improvement. His pad level, a lot like Emory Jones, is going to hurt his anchor, but it's a way bigger issue with Vincent because he's bigger and his knees don't bend nearly as well. He needs to add some play strength for that transition to the next level, in my opinion. And there are going to be times where he's going to get over aggressive and fall off of blocks or lunge and end up whiffing on blocks. But yeah, just a fun developmental offensive lineman prospect, if you think those can even exist. But I'm excited to see how Vincent develops. Baltimore loves these big dudes. Knowing them, if he doesn't work out at tackle, which I think he is someone that you want to start out, maybe thinking he's going to be your backup left tackle. But if that doesn't work, they could kick him inside like they did Falele. He has enough movement skills to definitely play guard. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But Vincent, Jones, and Buchanan are all very interesting and, in my opinion, pretty exciting developmental players there at the end of day 2 and then kind of at the start here of day 3. Moving then into the 6th round where they made not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 picks, starting out here with Bilal Kone, the corner out of Western Michigan. And I really like this one, man. This was tremendous value. I had an early 5th round grade on him here. You get him at the top of the 6th. 23-year-old corner, 6'1", 190 pounds. Somebody that I think can step in right away as like a CB4, CB5, and maybe even grow into something a little bit better. So he's got the frame you want. Really good short area athlete, tested very well. He's super fluid and oily in man coverage, so he can mirror wide receivers and flip his hips on a dime. He's a super high IQ player who processes information well and triggers quickly downhill. He uses his size to jam wide receivers at the line very consistently as a press corner. When in 50-50 situations, he plays the ball instead of the player, which is a very important distinction to make. His technique there is fantastic. He has really good zone IQ. He reads and reacts well. He doesn't really panic in coverage. He keeps his cool even when he's in a tough situation, and that usually results in him figuring out a way to make the most of it. And as a run defender, I mean, he's not somebody you're writing home about, but he is definitely capable, definitely is willing to play downhill. But the big things with him, number one, the recovery speed and the long speed are not fantastic. So if he gets beat off the line, he's going to get in a little bit of trouble. His play strength is not fantastic and will hurt his ability to press these more physical, bigger receivers at the next level, and also hurt his ability to contribute against the run. He plays the ball well, but he's not somebody that's going to come down with it very often. His footwork is probably my biggest issue with him. It's really sloppy and needs to be addressed. When it comes to tackling, he does not wrap up super consistently. And then when in coverage, he's pretty grabby. But like I said, as a depth corner, I mean, this Ravens corner room has gotten so rich this offseason, and we'll talk about Robert Longerbeam, but, you know, also picking up Jair Alexander, Chidobe Awuzie, and then you also have Marlon Humphrey, who is an incredible corner, Nate Wiggins, who I already talked about at the start of this video, TJ Tampa, who I thought was a great draft pick last year. They're like 5, 6 deep, depending on how you feel about like Jalen Armour Davis at corner, and Bilal Kone is someone that, honestly, like I said, could start out as a CB4 and become a starter. Maybe not for this Ravens team, all things considered, but, you know, somewhere else he absolutely could have. And Jair Alexander, we'll see how long he's with the Ravens. Maybe it's like a 1-year rental and Kone ends up being a starting corner for them next year. I think that's very possible. So I love that pick. A+ for me. Value's great. Fit's great. I kind of thought about dropping it to an A after the Jair Alexander pickup, because I was like, well, you don't really need him. But I'm not going to fault a draft pick for making a move after the draft, right? Like, they didn't know Jair Alexander was going to become a free agent. They didn't know he was going to want to come to them. So, you know, can't really hold that one against them by any means, but still a very, very good pick. Their next pick in the 6th round, 8 picks later, they took Tyler Loop, the kicker out of Arizona. And I'm going to be totally honest, I don't watch kickers. I don't evaluate kickers. I don't know what makes a good kicker prospect. That's just not in my repertoire. I will say, though, Baltimore struggled mightily last year from kicker play, and bringing a new face into the building can't be a bad thing. And it's the 6th round, so, you know, I can't, like, say drafting a kicker's bad, because these 6th and 7th round picks, you're just trying to find guys that can contribute in some way. And, you know, if Loop ends up being their kicker, then he's definitely contributing in some way. So I'm not going to grade that pick. I'm not going to count it for or against their overall grade, because I literally know nothing about this player. But, you know, kickers are people too, and maybe I should start evaluating kickers, but I wouldn't even know where to start. You know, I know my fullbacks. I can evaluate fullbacks. There's not a lot of people out there doing that, but kickers, that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. And then 17 picks later, they make, in my opinion, another special teams pick with LaJohntay Wester, the wide receiver / return specialist out of Colorado. Wester, I'm going to be real, I don't see a big role for him on offense. Maybe some manufactured touches, maybe as like a little bit of a gadget guy, but realistically, anything he brings on offense, you already have in like Zay Flowers or, you know, a couple other guys. So I'm not super convinced he's going to be a big contributor on offense. That's all right. This is the 6th round. We're talking about a special teamer. You're looking for guys that are going to contribute to your team in some way, and I think Wester can absolutely be the return specialist for Baltimore. He's someone with legit 4.4 speed, really good in open space, really good vision. He's good at making guys miss and finding lanes and taking advantage of what his blockers are setting up and whatnot. He's a good returner, is what I'm trying to say, basically. You know, he's undersized at 5'10", 163 pounds. Not someone that I think is going to survive playing a whole lot of offense. So I could see him getting worked in, like I said, on pop passes, on some drags that you want him to take upfield, things like that, some screens. But realistically, in my eyes, you're drafting Wester to be a special teamer, to be your return specialist. And going back-to-back returns, or going back-to-back special teamers, rather, when you definitely can use some help there, is something I can 100% get behind. So that's an A pick for me. Sure, there were better receivers available at this point, and I could nitpick or whatever, but number one, we're in the 6th round. Number two, you're not drafting Lester to be a receiver. You're drafting him to be a return specialist for you, and there weren't a lot of guys, if any, at this point on the board that I thought would do that better. So definitely a fan of that pick. But I'm an even bigger fan of the pick they made 7 picks later with Aeneas Peebles, the defensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. This is a guy that, if I'm not mistaken, was a top 100 player on my board. I'm double checking myself here. He was just barely number 99 on my big board. I couldn't remember if he was just outside or just inside, but he's an exciting player, man. He's a little undersized, which is why he fell at 6'1.5", 282 pounds. He has 31-inch arms. But man, oh man, is he fun to watch. He's a really good athlete. His first step is explosive. His motor jumps off the page. Easily the most attractive part of his game. Honestly, you could say he has the best motor in the entire class at any position, and you probably wouldn't be wrong. His gap discipline and eye discipline are both very, very good. His run diagnostics are great. He reads offenses and what they're throwing at him very, very well. And because of those run diagnostics, he's able to shoot gaps efficiently and effectively. That's where he's going to make his money. That's where he's going to make an impact. His hands are really active. They're powerful, and they contribute to a solid bull rush when he's able to build up speed to power. He has a well-developed, precise pass rush plan when he is attacking. So not a lot of guesswork. He knows exactly what he's doing when he engages with a blocker. His contact balance as a pass rusher is surprisingly good for someone that's under 300 pounds. He rarely gets knocked off his feet. And his pass rush tool belt is awesome. When you're little like this and you don't have like overwhelming strength or overwhelming athleticism, having a tool belt, being a technician is very, very good. And Aeneas Peebles is a textbook technician. Now, obviously, like I said, undersized, lacks the length, lacks the play strength, not someone that consistently stacks and sheds because of his shorter arms. His anchor is well short of ideal, but, if he's someone that you're getting on the field in the mix as a depth defensive tackle, I think that's awesome. Like, you look at what the Ravens had going into the draft on their defensive line. Obviously, Nnamdi Madubuike is incredible. Travis Jones is a great nose tackle. Broderick Washington does his thing. And then John Jenkins is a quality backup nose. And there's really not a whole lot to write home about after that. So this is a great depth pickup. Someone that can come in, let Madubuike or Washington kind of get a little bit of air in their lungs, give them a little breather, and can make a play or two for you in his own right. He's an exciting player. I fucking love Aeneas Peebles. He's a player I shouldn't like, by all accounts. Like, I usually don't like these little undersized defensive tackles, but man, he's such a smart run defender, and that really separates him from some players that kind of fill his archetypes. So cannot complain there at all. That was probably my favorite pick overall that Baltimore made, just in terms of the value, the fit, and the fact that Peebles was one of my guys in this draft. And then 2 picks later, they select another corner, this time Robert Longerbeam out of Rutgers. I had a mid to a late 5th round grade on Robert, end up taking him here at the end of the 6th round, so great value. And ironically, Longerbeam reminds me a lot of Chidobe Awuzie, so I think him landing in Baltimore to back up Awuzie is super exciting. I mean, that's why this is an A+. This is a perfect landing spot for him. The value's great. He's somebody that can come in right away, be a special teams contributor with 4.39 speed, and develop a little bit in the background while some of these older corners kind of do their thing right now. They're gearing up at corner for the next generation. So taking a look at Longerbeam and what he brings to the table, really good long speed, like I said, high IQ player, good processor, really good ball skills with notable production. He's sticky in man coverage. He's a high IQ zone defender who triggers downhill quickly. He's a willing run defender, even though he's a little bit undersized at 175 pounds. He is willing. He tries to throw his body in there to do something. And then as a blitzer, he's able to make some stuff happen. He shoots into gaps, flies downhill with that speed. That being said, though, he is a 24-year-old rookie. He's skinny. Doesn't have a lot of play strength, not a consistent tackler. Despite his speed, his recovery ability is not great, and he allows a little bit too much separation at the top of routes for my liking. So there's definitely some growth to be had there, but as a 6th round developmental prospect that, could potentially end up being at worst like a CB4, CB5 for you, I love this pick. Another A+ for Baltimore. And then Garrett Dellinger, I watched in passing. I didn't get a whole lot of him, but, taking an offensive lineman here in the 7th round, another interior guy, can't complain with that process whatsoever. And honestly, when I saw him play, he didn't do anything egregiously bad. So I'm willing to give them a grade for that one, even though it's someone I'm not super familiar with. So before we wrap up, I'm actually doing this in post because I totally forgot to do it. I've been trying to talk about UDFAs, and Baltimore did have one UDFA I want to talk about, and that is Jay Higgins, the linebacker out of Iowa. I had an early to a mid 5th round grade on him, very similar grade to Buchanan, and Higgins was just one of my guys, man. Now, I get why he fell out of the draft. He's undersized at 6 foot, 224 pounds. He's already 23 years old. Not the most athletic guy in the world, but he is such an old school football player, and I have a lot of respect for his game. First and foremost, big time locker room guy, big time leader. He was considered the quote unquote ultimate leader by teammates in college, and he's someone that communicates super well all in the field, and he gets his guys set up pre-play. A lot of what I was talking about with Starks applies to Higgins. He's a good sideline to sideline player in spite of quality athleticism that relies more on his instincts and his ability to read the offense and what they're throwing at him. Very high motor player, really good processing and instincts in both run and pass defense. Sound tackler, notable production there. Great instincts in run diagnostics in the run game. He can stack and shed from time to time. Zone IQ is really good with the ability to read the quarterback, pass off routes and zones, and key in on route development. He has great ball skills, led all Big Ten linebackers in picks last year. He's a good blitzer downhill, and he has experience on special teams, which is likely where he'll start if he makes the team. And then, painting the full picture here with the negatives. Like I said, not the biggest dude in the world, not super athletic, not super fluid. He can get a little grabby if he's in man coverage and gets beat, and he will fall for play action from time to time, likely because he is too short to see the ball over the line when the quarterback's faking a handoff, which is definitely an issue, but I don't know. I like Higgins a lot. I can see a world where he ends up on this team as a contributor, even if it's just on special teams. And if he doesn't end up in Baltimore as a contributor, I'd love to see him go somewhere else and do something. Because Higgins just seems like such a football guy, such an old school player, such a fun player, someone I had a ton of fun watching when I was watching the Iowa defensive players. So there you have it. That's the only UDFA that I really had any notes on for Baltimore, someone that I'm a fan of. But we'll go ahead and throw it back to me, and we'll talk about an overall grade for Baltimore and get out of here. Overall, really, really like what Baltimore did. If you took that blemish in the 2nd round out of this class, I'd be entertaining an A+. Instead, this is going to drop down to an A- because that pick, I mean, you're throwing away a 2nd round pick. I don't care what he's going to look like on the field. Really respectable across the board otherwise. Malachi Starks, Bilal Kone, Aeneas Peebles, and Robert Longerbeam are awesome picks. And then Emory Jones Jr., Carson Vincent, exciting developmental players, as is Teddy Buchanan. Loop and Wester, I'm sure they'll contribute on special teams. And if they don't, 6th round picks, not the end of the world. So across the board, very, very good draft. Baltimore continues to kill it. But man, this class obviously is going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. So it's tough. It's tough. But I hope the rest of this class is super successful. And I hope they're able to rise to the occasion and kind of make him not the biggest story in this class anymore. If Starks comes out as a superstar, or some of these corners pop out of nowhere, then people will be talking about them instead of that freak. But anyways, that is going to do it for this installment of my draft grades. I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know down in the comments below what you all thought about this class. Am I too high, too low on anybody? What do you think about the class as a whole? Some of these developmental guys are really exciting. Maybe you think they're a little bit further along on their path than maybe I gave them credit for, or maybe I'm overselling some of these guys at the end that I was handing out big grades to, something like that. Let me know what you think. And Also, just let me know in general how you feeling about the Ravens. I think this is definitely a team that is going to make some noise this year. Not exactly a hot take. Baltimore's a very good football team. And definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And also make sure to leave a like down below if you enjoyed the video. Helps out the channel a ton. Shows your support, shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. And also make sure to subscribe for more NFL content coming your way throughout the offseason and the NFL season. It's kind of become tradition at this point that at some point during the regular season I'll make a video about Nnamdi Madubuike, so if nothing else, you'll want to subscribe to find out when that is. We're 2 years strong, probably going to have a third one. Because, man, I love me some Nnamdi Madubuike. He's one of my favorite players in the entire league. But either way, I definitely recommend you subscribe. I'm a little bit biased, but I think it'll be worth your time. And to everyone out there watching, I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you truly do deserve it.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow. Using that